أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In the second installment of discussions about Baha'ism, it's a concluding chapter now, but there are certain very important observations that we will make before we conclude this series. And then, of course, we will discuss briefly after this Christianity and Judaism also. But tonight we are discussing Baha'ism, which I explained last night is a product of the middle 19th century in Iran. And it was based on the claim first, of course, that I am a gate to Imam Zaman alayhi salam. And from the gate he became Imam Zaman himself. And later on, of course, he found out that he was God. And things like that. Now, what I am going to say tonight is very important. First and foremost, that gradually this sect and the leader of the sect traveled to the United States of America. Abbas Afandi was in America. His son Shauqi Afandi was also in America. Shauqi Afandi died in 1957. So you can imagine that for nearly 70 to 80 years they have been in the United States of America. Before they traveled to America, they first went and traveled and settled in Israel, which is today Israel. In those days it was not Israel, it was Jerusalem or Palestine, that part which has gone to Israel. And the shrine of Baha'u'llah, Sheikh Hussein Baha'u'llah, is still in Israel. If anybody wants to go, now it is Israel, so you've got to go to Israel to visit the shrine. Now, with retrospect, if you look at it, you'll find that there has been a conspiracy and an intrigue, a planning against Islam by Yahudis, by the Jews, and also by the American government. If you have read the press recently, that means during the last 10 years, after the revolution of Islam or Islamic Republic of Iran, Ayatollah al-Khomeini Ridwanullah alayh ordered that Bahaism, the Baha'i temples, the Baha'i centers be gradually removed from Iran. The question arises, the man who in his constitution enshrined freedom of religion for all, why didn't he give it to Baha'is? He allowed Jews to practice Judaism in Iran. He allowed Christians to practice Christianity in Iran. And he allowed Zoroastrian means Parsis, to have their own Atish Kadah, that means worshipping fire in Iran. And it is enshrined in the constitution, which says that everyone will be allowed to follow his religion as long as he does not walk into the path of Islam, does not cross the path of Islam, does not propagate against Islam, does not work to undermine Islam. You can do whatever you like. Why not Baha'is? And when the Baha'is were arrested and expelled, and some of them were killed and some of them were put into prison, the first voice which was raised in protest based on human rights was by Mr. Ronald Reagan. Normally they don't do it. They let the world clamor and shout first, and then they come in as godfathers to act as good men and good uncle. and solve the question. But in this matter, they were the first. Reader's Digest issued a special article against Iran based on advocacy for Baha'is. And Mr. Reagan made it sure that the government of Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran, knew about his displeasure because the Baha'is were persecuted. So what is actually the reason behind it? The reason is that as Baha'ism entered in the United States of America, the climate was favorable. Because America never wanted any religion. America wanted any tool, any ideology which would work for their interest and in their interest. They were not interested in any religion. Here came an ideology which speaks good of all religions and at the same time claims to be Islamic and for that matter Shiite. Therefore they exploited it to the full and it soon became the official agency of CIA, Baha'ism. And the Shah of Iran was a Baha'i, not a Shia. Try to understand this. Shah of Iran was a Baha'i, and some of the ministers officially in the cabinet then proclaimed Baha'ism without any hindrance or hiding or any shame or hesitation. They called themselves Baha'is. With the result that the Shah, remember, if you don't, I'm just trying to refresh your memories, celebrated 2,500 years of the Persian kingdom, not Islamic Persian. That Persian kingdom which was before Islam. And people from all over the world were invited. Kings and ministers and prime ministers and presidents entered Iran. Millions of tuman at that time were spent. And all that celebration was in the name of the first king who was a fire worshipper, not a Muslim. And standing at the grave of that king who died 2,500 years, the tribute that the Shah of Iran gave to that king clearly states that he has got nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. He promised the bones in the grave, that I am going to revive your culture. And even the calendar he wanted to replace from Islamic into that Persian calendar which is called Nizam Shamsi calendar. And if you recollect, the famous Madrasa Faidiya's lecture in 1963 on Ashura Day by Imam Khomeini Ridwanullah alayh, he says that have you ever heard anywhere that if an American dog is killed under your car, that's what he said. If an American dog is killed under your car, you are guilty. But if a marja or an alim is killed, you are not guilty. If an American kills you, he cannot be tried on the soil of Iran. He must be tried in American court. This was a fact. He said this. Why? Because Baha'ism started ruling Iran. Baha'ism became the tool of America. And even today, the universal house of justice of Baha'ism is in America. And there is no need for them to raise any funds. So much of money is there that if you go to New Delhi today and see the Baha'i temple, you might not see such a structure anywhere in the world. It is a concrete structure, full structure in the shape of a lotus flower. Lotus is Kamal. Kamal ka phool. Kamal. The whole thing is made of concrete, but it is in the shape of the lotus flower. And it has cost them 10 crore rupees. And the money has gone from England and America much more than anywhere else. Baha'is. Now when America found it was very suitable, they promoted it. And we have now today got more American Baha'is than any other Baha'is. Or we have got Iranians Americanized who have been living in America for years. They have married and intermarried. And that's why you sometimes wonder, there's so many Iranians, there's not a single mosque. But there cannot be a mosque because they are nearly all of them Baha'is. Those who are in Los Angeles and other parts of California, most of them are Baha'is. Don't expect them to have a mosque. They don't believe. Now, the idea that everything is good is just like one fruit seller. He was selling a fruit. And a man like me comes there and says, "What is the price of this?" He says, "A pound." It's very cheap. Eh? I said, "Yes, it is cheap." Then he says, "But it used to be cheaper." I said, "Yes, it used to be cheaper." "It's very ripe." I said, "Yes, it is very ripe." "But some of it is still not ripe." I said, "Yes, it's not still very ripe." "It is very good for health." I said, "Yes, it is very good for health." "But it is very bad for diabetes." I said, "It's very bad for diabetes." This is in Gujarati is called Ame Sachu ne Teme Sachu. I go on saying yes. I am a fool. I say, "Yes, you are a fool. Both of us are fools." It seems that both of us are fools. Ame Sachu ne Teme Sachu. What does it mean? It means, have you seen a person who talks in both these languages, this way and that way? If you tell him this way, he says yes. If you tell him that way, he says that. Because he wants to please everyone. In English they say to praise all alike is to praise none. When you praise all alike, that means you are praising no one. When Abraham Lincoln was shown two photographs and was asked which painting you like better, he could not say which one he liked better. So he said, each is better than the other. Over. Both of them are happy. In religion, can this be practiced? Now here comes the question. Islam will tell you pray 5 times a day. Wajib. There are religions who tell you there is no need to pray in the morning or in the afternoon or at night. Now which one is correct to you? Both of them are correct. It means sometimes you will pray and sometimes you will not. Islam tells you Quran is the final book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there are so many books. You will say all books are right. So there are books which call for idol worshipping, and there are books which do not. Which one is right? Now, for a while, be with me and think. Because it sometimes takes a lot of thinking. There is a question which remains unresolved even today by all the philosophers. I will not talk in the language of philosophy, I'll talk in common man's language. There is a problem which has not been resolved by any philosopher. It cannot be resolved. The question is, in this world, is there something good and something bad? Is there good and evil? Does good and evil, do they exist or they don't? This is the question. Now all of them say yes, there is no doubt. There are something which are good and there are things which are evil. Who will decide? No one can decide. Joad, Jung, Russell, Wellington, Hegel, Kierkegaard, all these philosophers and many more have been writing books and books. No one has been able to decide. There is good and there is evil, but what is good and what is evil, who will decide? They haven't been able to. I'll give examples. There are certain values in our lives which are immutable. And there are certain values in life which are relative. To steal is bad. That is immutable. It can't change. To speak the truth is good. It is immutable. It can't change. But there are things which are relative. That means in certain societies they are good. In certain societies they are bad. In certain societies they are cultural. And certain societies are anti-social. Who is going to decide which is bad, which is good? I'm giving an example from the community. In Mombasa, I remember, I don't know of other places. If I entered the Imam Bara without a cap, Allahu Akbar. I'm talking very early days. Any elderly person, not necessarily my father or my uncle, no, any elderly person will just catch me by the arm and say, go home and tell your father to give you a cap so that you can come into Imam Bara. Today a man wearing a cap is an odd man out. People look at this new animal which has come with a cap. Because 90% of the people sitting here are without cap. Elderly, young ones, all of them. But there are certain elderly people who are having a cap, or young people. Now, what was wrong then has become right now, or what was right then has become wrong. One has to decide. Or was it right then and also right today? If any boy got married and brought his child before his own father, that means bringing the child before the grandfather, oh my goodness, that would be the day he will experience hell. Because the grandfather would say, I know that you have given birth to this child, but don't you feel ashamed that you come with the child before us? You are trying to show us that you have produced? As long as you are alive, that used to be the thing. No father or mother could carry his or her child before an elderly person in the family. It was for them to look after the children. We would just go as innocent as if we had done nothing. Yeah? And today we go before our parents with 3 here and 2 here. To show him that we have been very active. And the father takes pride and says, MashaAllah, MashaAllah, this is my garden. And it is true. There isn't wrong. Now, was that right or was this right? Nobody can tell. This is something. Those relative values in life. More than that, a man is so selfish, every one of us, that if anything wrong occurs to me, I would like to shout at the top of my voice to say that somebody has wronged me. And at the time when I wrong someone, I have got thousands of justifications and excuses to say that no, this was not like that, it was like this. Is it not? It's true. When it falls on me, I change. When it falls on others, at a place where I went years ago, we were young, all of us, he said, Mullah Sahib, have you changed or are you still in the 18th century? I said, how much do you want me to change? He said, would you have a Pepsi Cola in a restaurant? I said, yes. In a restaurant? I said, haram. Oh, so you have slightly changed. I said, yes, slightly changed. We went to a restaurant, and while we were sitting there, certain voices started coming from far, which are not halal to hear. So I told him, I said, Baba, where have you brought me? You told me only for Pepsi Cola, and this seems to be more than Pepsi Cola. He said, it is not connected with this restaurant, so don't worry. Sorode Hamsaya Jaiz. Means the music from the neighborhood is Jaiz, always. It's not in your house. But, he said, Mullah Sahib, do you know that you know what is happening there? They are all dancing. Couples are dancing, somebody's wife dancing with somebody's husband, they're dancing. And mashallah, it's our community because we are very much advanced. So fine. So we are advanced. If it is our community, then we are really advanced. And then he said, you don't approve. I said, haram. It is. I said, are you a member? He said, no. I am a member, but I don't go there to dance. I said, why? He said, because I am just engaged. If I go and dance with somebody's wife now, tomorrow when I get married, I will have to allow my wife to dance with somebody else. That I cannot accept. I say, oh. So when it comes to your wife, you can't accept that she dances with anybody. When it comes to somebody else's wife, they are modern. So it means that for my own sake, I am not going to accept anything. But for others, there are other standards. So if there are standards and standards, now we have come to this country, there are standards and standards. We like to remain half Muslim and half Christian sometimes. Just like Mirza Ghalib. When Mirza Ghalib was asked, Aapka deen kya hai? He said, Adha Musalman, Adha Masihi. Means half Christian and half Muslim. So somebody told him, Ghalib Sahab, aisa koi dharam nahi hai duniya mein. There is no such religion, half Christian, half. He said, yes, why not? I drink, therefore I am Christian. I don't eat pork, therefore I am Muslim. You see? But today, tell me what principle is going to guide us? Who is going to tell us that this is good and this is evil? And I throw this question to all the thinkers of the world, and I have been discussing this also with them whenever I met them. So, all right, you give me an answer. Nobody can decide. If no one can decide, now I make a second submission. Are we living on this earth alone or together? We are living together. We are an aggregate animal, means animal who lives in a society. Can I live alone? I cannot. Can you live alone? You cannot. We are all living together. Since we live together, therefore we have interaction. We have interaction. You will say Salaam alaikum, I will say alaikum salam. You will ask me a question, I have to answer. I need something from you, I'll come and ask for it. And so on. Helping each other, working together, living together. Is it not true? This is the name of a human society, whether it is a community or a human society. We need each other. An-nasu lin-nas. Men were created for men. Agreed? If there is interaction and there are no laws, what will happen? There will be chaos. Now, if this community, which is today, let us say, under one constitution, has no constitution whatsoever, and says everyone is free to do whatever he likes, imagine what will happen in this Imambara. There will be chaos. But there are certain laws, and we abide by those laws. There is peace everywhere. If there is any question, we ask the lawmaker that this is your law, and we would like to know a clarification. That is the reason why, my friends, a law has got to be established so that human society in general could live as good neighbors and good friends and good people, regardless of the ethnic origin, regardless of the culture and all that. That law has got to be given. Where immutable laws and relative laws are given and cast, who will give? Human beings cannot give because they are all selfish. Everybody looks at his own interest. The lawgiver has got to be the one who created us, who has got no axe to grind. He knows what is good for you. He knows what is bad for you. Whether you are an Englishman, an American, an Indian, a Pakistani, a Bangladeshi, an African, a Yemeni or an Iraqi or Hijazi or whatever. He knows. Once he has told you this is haram, it is haram, and it must be known that it is haram. Once he told you it is halal. That is the meaning of Sharia. Now if this is understood, then all religions cannot be true. There has got to be one set of law which is true. But if you are a Baha'i, then sometimes you drink and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you gamble and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you go for namaz and sometimes you don't. And gradually everything goes off. This is the reason why it attracts the young people. It attracts the people who do not wish to go into any sorts of binding laws. Although human society cannot live without a binding. Now, today, in Uganda, in Ethiopia, in Nairobi, in London, these are the centers of Baha'ism. The moment they see a young bright boy or a young bright girl forthcoming, mixing the society, and contributing something intellectually, they'll try to lure him and gradually feed him and tell him. They hunt for personnel from the campus of the universities. Bright boy in the university. And they tell him, come now. You are a Muslim, you can remain a Muslim, but see, this is Baha'ism. And they give you beautiful books to read. If you read the books and you do not ponder over what is written in it, you are going to be misguided. The basic question therefore remains that our boys and girls have got to know Islam better than they know now. That is another subject which I am not going to broach tonight. Finally, there came a stage when Baha'ism developed into Godhead. And I want to make only one small observation, that what sort of Godhead it was. You'll be surprised. There is a poet in Persian who says to Ali Muhammad Bab, that why have you become God? Why have you become God? Remove the veil and show the world that you are higher than God. Remove the veil and show the world that you are higher than God. Now imagine what is higher than God. Every time he went on increasing his status, they called it a daraja. And in Farsi they used to call Bala Tarraft. Bala Tarraft means he has gone higher and higher and higher. But where to? He has taken us lower and lower and lower. And this is, and for that he used another tool, which is a common tool, which is used. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. He used a woman. That woman's name is Qurratul Ain. Qurratul Ain means coolness of the eye. We call our children Qurratu Aini. But her name was Zareen Taj. Her actual name was Zareen Taj. Zareen Taj means golden crown. And she was known as Qurratul Ain. Now, all good things in a woman were there in her. She was bright and brilliant. She was very beautiful. She was the daughter of an alim, and she herself was an alim. Now, can you imagine anything more than this? She was an alim, daughter of an alim. She was beautiful. She was highly intelligent. And when she sat on a mimbar to speak, at that time with hijab, even the ulama, male ulama, listened to her as she elucidated ayat of Quran and all that. But one day, she removed the hijab and said, hijab is no more. وَأَنْكَحْتُ وَزَوَّجْتُ قَدْ فَرَّ مِنَ الْمَيْدَانِ. And ankahtu and zawajtu have gone away forever. That means there is no need for ankahtu wa zawajtu anymore. When the fitna begins with the participation of a woman, فَقَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. This Qurratul Ain had the audacity of going from Qazwin to Kadhumain. From Kadhumain she went to Karbala. From Karbala she came back to Kadhumain, and from Kadhumain again she went to Kirman Shah. She went to all those places, and wherever she stood to speak, all these people assembled, and only one thing she said, Mahdi has appeared. We are waiting for him, we have been waiting for him. He has appeared already. Ali Muhammad Bab is the Mahdi. Why are you waiting? And so there was a commotion. Qurratul Ain. Of course, both of them, Ali Muhammad Bab and Qurratul Ain, were killed. But today, the latest report that I have from America on Babism and Baha'ism is that, mashallah, the majority of the members are women. So history repeats itself full cycle. Then, of course, there was only Qurratul Ain. Now there are, mashallah, many Qurratul Ain. Now you can imagine what happens to a young boy who is at that time approached by a Qurratul Ain. You can imagine what happened. Ali Akbar Allahabadi said, Darmiyane Qa'are Darya Takhta Bandam Mi Kuni Wa Baz Mi Gui Ke Daman Tarmakun Hoshyar Bash. You are asking me to be right in the middle of the ocean. Eh? You are asking me to be right in the middle of the ocean, sitting on a very small plank of wood, and then you say, be careful, don't wet your clothes. Can it be possible? Can it be possible? So when we have the missionaries who are of Qurratul Ain type, and they come and sit next to you and tell you that the world is a very beautiful place to live in, and the Mahdi has arrived, and this is a new millennium, and things like that, and we are all brothers and fraternity and all that, it looks so beautiful. At the same time, it's so misleading. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. Now, before I conclude, there is a wasiyah, a tawsiyah, that we should pray for one gentleman who is not well at all. And there are many who have made wasiyah. We have just made 5 times we have read Amman Yujibu. There are certain mu'mineen for whom we should make special prayers. For all of them, and for this particular patient, we say, Rahimallahu man qara al-Fatiha lish-shifa. وعجل فرج